Thank you for joining Wars of the Roses. And in this video I'll be reading an article from Manly P. Hall's magazine, Horizon, the magazine of useful and intelligent living. January 1942. A life dedicated to truth. Thoughts gathered together through the years give us a full expression of a great thinker's convictions concerning the nature of truth. In the second half of the 16th century, a young man came into public mind in England who, in the course of the fullness of his years, became possibly the greatest exponent of words that the world has ever known. The vocabulary of Francis Bacon is perhaps the largest of which we have knowledge, and certainly his use of words and his contribution of words to the races of our peoples is priceless beyond estimation. Bacon possessed not only the happy faculty of knowing words, but he possessed even greater skill in combining them to release, as an artist does by the combining of his colors, an exquisite pattern of ideas. Even the driest and most legal documents of Lord Francis Bacon are poems in prose, each word chosen with the greatest skill. How superfluous is flowery, eloquence is revealed in his perfect selection of words. His figures of speech are faultless. He is the master of double meaning, capable of involving into one single idea 100 potential interpretations. From a pure standpoint of words and beauty of thought, the works of Lord Bacon are a joy to the soul. It is rare to find scholarship well sustained by words. A great physician or a great astronomer makes some noble contribution to knowledge, then so ponderously records it that only a few of his own kind are willing to wade through the dilemma of specialized terminology. Lord Bacon in his Novum Organum presents probably the most profound theory of modern scientific deduction, yet it has been done in a language so magnificent that it is readable in every line and is a joy in every word. While Bacon was still a very young man, between his 17th and 20th years, he began the compilation of his celebrated essays. Bacon's essays sort of grew with his life, his mind constantly welling up with stray thoughts that were not vast enough for books and not related enough for chapters, but stood alone. They were too long for an aphorism and too short for an essay, in the larger sense of essay. So he gathered these thoughts together through the years, adding another to a beginning one or two, out of his experiences and modifications of his life. And thus he gradually began building up a book. The first of his essays is the first of his published writings, and in their last edition this is written by Chaplain Raleigh. And here his lordship had left his essays unfinished, death having taken away the skill from his pen. Bacon's essays are really then a book he wrote all of his life. Perfect copies of his first edition, little more than a pamphlet 3 inches by 5 inches, are bringing anywhere from 1,200 to 2,500 a copy. This little book, containing so many simple but definite statements of noble thought, has among its gems the most quoted of all his celebrated statements. In regard to atheism, he says, "A little thinking may incline the mind towards atheism, but the greatest study bringeth the mind back again to God." The essays come the nearest to a comparative scriptural style of writing of any of Bacon's writings. The first, of truth, or concerning the nature of truth, was written probably when he was in his late 20s. It is by no means the most mellow or mature of his essays, and to really get a full expression of his convictions concerning the nature of truth, all of his books must be read. Bacon dedicated his life to truth. Everything he said with the spirit of truth, activating his soul. Like all humans, he was subject to limitation and error, but he unquestionably was intensely dedicated to veracity in every aspect of its nature. In his works, the Novum Organum, Advancement of Learning, Essays, Civil and Moral, Opuscula Historico Politica, The Nature of Science, and Silvarum, in all are contained his conclusions concerning truth, and his conclusions concerning truth add up to this: the universe is sustained by a sovereign intellect, which does not possess the capacity for error. This sovereign impulse, by direct impulse, against which there can be no single resistance, establishes all life in itself, in its own errorless nature. All that life is therefore essentially beyond the capacity of error. What we call error is the artificial relationship set up in the conflict between life and form. We are all deceived by appearances. This last has a double meaning. We are not only deceived in the sense of seeing rightly, but it is the very form or personality which is our own which obscures our seeing, and error is an obstruction of the plan. Thus it is where fact is not evident, but nevertheless exists. The human mind has not in such cases been able to penetrate the evident and find the existence. This, to Bacon, determined a new classification of knowledge. All things, he maintained, could be classified exactly, because there was exactitude throughout all space, no fault nor fallacy. All the sovereign purpose of man is that man should learn. Learning is a synonym for living. The terms are absolutely related and synonymous. That which does not live cannot learn, and that which cannot learn is not living. Existence may be applied to the faculty of non-intelligent things, a meaningless existence. Man must live. To live means to live towards something. Life is motion, and all motion is towards something. Life is motion towards truth, and has no other significance. Motion towards truth is accomplished by using life as a method of learning. To resist learning is to destroy self, and so is the necessity absolute for learning as a mode of life. And Lord Bacon declared, it is the province of knowledge that to all men shall be made available all that is knowable by men. He desired in his Novum Organum to compile a great textbook covering all he could discover about that of which all must yet be known. In this sense, he gave the world a number of great textbooks. They were written with humility, with dignity, and sublimity of significance which bespeaks the dignity of the deep mind. Those books came from the most mature of his years, but his essay of truth is from his childhood, having in it a shadow of that which was to come. What is truth, saith Pilate, and would not stay for an answer. This first and arresting line is somewhat amplified in other places by Bacon. Pilate asking the nature of truth does not stay for the answer, and this is behavior perfectly consistent with an average individual. We are always asking, but we never stay for the answer. Is it that we are afraid of the answer? There is nothing we desire more nor fear more than truth. And our recognition that truth, while it is a revelation, is also a limitation. We realize that truth, making us free of error, puts us in bondage forever to the real, and we are afraid of it. Lord Bacon says, certain there be that delight in giddiness, and count it a bondage to fixate belief, affecting free will in thinking as well as in acting. And though the sects of philosophers of that kind be gone, yet there remain certain discoursing wits, which are of the same veins, though there be not so much blood in them, as was in those of the ancients. But it is not only the difficulty and labor which men take in finding out the truth, nor again that when it is found it imposeth upon men's thoughts, that do bring lies in favor, but a natural, though corrupt, love of the lie itself. One of the later schools of the Grecians examineth the matter, and is at a stand to think what should be in it, that men should love lies, where neither they make for pleasure as with poets, nor for advantage as with the merchant, but for the lie's sake. But I cannot tell a lie. This same truth is a naked and open daylight, that do not show the mask, and murmuries and triumphs of the world, half so stately and dainty as candlelights. Truth may perhaps come to the price of a pearl, that showeth best by day, but it will not rise to the price of a diamond or carbuncle, that showeth best in varied lights. A mixture of lie do ever add pleasure. Do any man doubt that if there were taken out of men's minds vain opinions, flattering hopes, false values, imaginations as one would, and the like, but it would leave the minds of a number of men poor shrunken things, full of melancholy and indisposition, and unpleasing to themselves. He then goes on to explain that the lie, by which he means all falsifications, whether vocal or intellectual, the lie is the principal support for the concept of individuality. In his more advanced years, Bacon more specifically says that the lie is a defense mechanism of the ego. We are always trying to tell ourselves something to sustain ourselves against the universe, and that is lying. A lie is a statement that is contrary to the fact. A lie may take many forms. The simplest and least objectionable of all forms of a lie, says Bacon, is a prevaricate, for only the foolish believe in it in the first place. The most complicated form of a lie is that in which ideas are falsely postulated. These may cause great sorrow, as for example the Spanish Inquisition, where the foundation was upon a prevarication of ideas, rather than merely false words. The lie supporting the ego is the basic formula. When we want something our way, we lie to ourselves. When we believe we can get it, we lie to ourselves. When we believe we want it, and we lie to ourselves after we think we have it. Then we turn around and make doctrines out of these lies, trying to prove that other people can do the same thing. A lie is the belief that it is possible to exist contrary to the pattern of existence, and every philosophy, every doctrine, every theology, every individual ambition that is contrary to the pattern of universals is false. And as Bacon also said, if you took all the falsehoods out of the minds of most people, their minds would look both melancholy and shrunken, and there would not be much left. That is one of the reasons we fear truth. Truth is detrimental to our personal preferences, personal prejudices, personal opinions, personal conceits, and personal ambitions. That, in the opinion of Lord Bacon, is why Pontius Pilate walked out before he had his answer. There is nothing we want more and fear more than facts. If the universal plan were ever fully revealed to us, would destroy our entire evolutionary process for the reason that it is part of the decision of life that we should choose the real. The greatest achievement of the human being in his evolutionary procedure is his voluntary acceptance of reality. That is the supreme test of material existence. If through the final statement of reality and the unavoidable inference of fact, man could no longer choose between error and fact, but was forced by the inevitability of obvious things to select fact, the greatest moral factor in his life would be gone. That seems to be one of the reasons why facts remain obscure. The decision to select that which is real must not come as an unqualified advantage, but rather as an absolute proof of personal intellect and spiritual courage. Truth awaits discovery by the individual who has the courage to recognize it. One primary fact which we overlook is that the motion of all things is according to their nature. Each nature is as it is. It is in the place it has earned for itself. It is doing that which is necessary. All living things are doing the best they can for what they are. Failure is impossible. All life is fulfilling its destiny, or as Bacon says, filling up the space that was made for itself. Therefore, most of the energy we expend in the desperate effort to change the face of things is wasted, because the face of things will not be changed. The only way that it will basically change is within, and this change is parallel to and equal to the increase of inward realization of that thing itself. Growth is the increase of our capacity to accept truth as fact. The whole of the objective universe is a kind of fabrication, a kind of dishonesty based upon the conviction that because we are capable of a small reflex of temporal individuality, that we can build upon this a Tower of Babel and conquer the universe. We are using symbols, but we are using the wrong symbols. We believe if we can conquer other nations, we can conquer space, and here is where parallels are not parallels. We believe that if we by despotism can become masters of the world, that by greater despotism we can become masters of space. We believe if we can get what we want for a short time in this material world, that we will by that fact be entitled to live by a philosophy that what we want we can get throughout space, which just does not follow. As a matter of fact, every motion we make here from a wrong viewpoint brings us misery commensurate with our error. But because the misery does not follow within a few seconds or perhaps in a week or two, we recognize the interval, and that interval becomes the basis of hope, a hope that we can escape values. Because incidents and their consequences are not hopelessly interrelated, we can choose to ignore the relationship by a philosophy like this. We can say that there is no effect of a moral nature resulting from any kind of action. And we can prove it by sitting down after we having done this thing and show that nothing will happen. Alright, nothing happens for a week, 6 months, but a year or two later, That incident brings the consequence. By this time, the individual has a new defense mechanism. He would rather believe the thing that happens to him is an accident or a coincidence. He would rather believe this than accept its relationship to himself as the effect of a previous cause. So his life is made up of doing what he wants to do, accepting the consequences, suffering as strange and confusing miseries without a reason. He does not hitch the things he has done to the things that are done to him. He would rather keep them into categories. And by doing this fact, more than any other, do we all get ourselves complicated into a lack of relationships all too familiar. Study of the philosophic values brings realization that we are consistently resisting truth. And in this resistance to truth, we are working a basic and primary hardship upon ourselves. For all practical purposes and reasons, therefore, it is far wiser that we try to understand truth as the sovereign fitness and rightness, that we accept the fact that all life is in order. And while we do not know with certainty where we are going, and we do not know with absolute certainty even while we are going, we do not know with absolute finality the infinite reaches of qualitative space. Truth as conviction is the firm belief that wherever space is, there are honor, justice, realization, truth, and law. The unknown is merely the extension of the known into greater reaches of qualitative perfection. And wherever space is, it will be filled with the fountain of being, which is the supreme truth. Wherever the fountain of being stands, it is the one to which there can be no second. It is the principle which nothing in space can resist, and all effort to resist it is annihilation. That, in basic substance, is the opinion of those who have contemplated the mysteries concerning the nature of that term which we call truth. Condensation from a public lecture. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment.